for the meeting.
Project and all of its details. Next step in the meeting.
Thank you, Miranda.
I'm Sam Huffman, and I am also at Nelson Nygaard, working with Orange County, doing the same stuff with Brandon. So,
Right. Where's your office is at?
I'm based in New York.
I'm based in Boston.
Did y'all come down here just for this?
For the engagement period, we're here for 2 nights. So we got in this morning, we've been driving around all day, hanging up flyers, passing out surveys. We'll be at some senior centers over the next couple of days. And then we'll be back again the end of the month
Cool.
to do more outreach, talk to folks.
Cool.
Here in person.
Thank you for all that.
I'm Eric Willie. I'm representing the Cheeks area of Orange County.
I'm a member at large at the moment.
I'm Randy Marshall. I represent the Brigham Township.
Bring them up. Bring 'em up.
That's what it says. I guess it must be everything else.
And I'm Tara Green. I'm a parent volunteer on the Cedar Ridge High School TSO. Thanks for
Thank you, Carol.
Also a member of the PSO here to learn about plans for school safety.
So what's your name?
Luis Fernandez, sorry.
And I'm Michael Hughes. And I'm also at large. On the transportation advisory. Sure.
Greg Wallachuk, representing the Chapel Hill Township.
Ms. Trivedi, Orange County Transportation.
Jamie Crandall representing.
Thank you.
And just to refresh everybody, let everybody know, on virtually, we have Kelly Milligan, Orange County, Darlene Weaver, Orange County, Josh Mayo is also on, Natalie, Art, and, yeah. I think Jamie, you're here, and, Amy's here. Sherry, I don't see her. I don't think she was able to make it.
Are they able to hear us through your computer?
Can y'all hear us?
Decently well. I think I didn't really
Yes.
hear Miranda, but I've heard everyone else.
She's on the other end of the room. I'm sorry you can't hear. She's all the way the other end. So she's with the Nelson Nygaard, and they're here for public engagement, and they're here to talk about the short range transit plan. All right.
Are there any considerations or additions or changes to the agenda?
Based on the letter that we sent to Chuck Edward regarding adding the clean fiber side of the.
Yeah, to give you a quick update on that and a couple other things, I think Art and a couple others have mentioned some small administrative things like that. We've been working with DOT. I will send everybody the point of contact that we have for DOT maintenance yard, who does this kind of administrative things. He has staff looking into it, both the divider piece as well as other issues that's been raised, and we've been forwarded to DOT to let them know. So I will put on my list to get you the point of contact for DOT for these administrative things. And I'll follow when we follow with Chuck, because we're doing NCDOT quarterly luncheon, preparing for that meeting as we ask him about these things and other important topics, and get back to you in September. I think it's scheduled for sometime into this month or early next month.
Any other additions, questions, or changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Anybody from the public want to make a comment?
I think they're reserving their comments for the safe practice.
Nonetheless, I'm obliged to pass.
Yes.
All right, next item on the agenda would be approval of the minutes from July 10th and July 18th.
This is July 10th, not June 10th. This is July, sorry, my mistake, July 10th
Yes.
and July 18th, yes.
Well,
Anybody have any
with the
comments on
corrected
June?
dates, I move for acceptance.
I'm sorry, Art, can you speak up?
With the corrected dates, I move acceptance.
Art is moved for approval with the corrected dates.
Do we have a second? What was that?
Art just moved for approval with the corrected date, which is instead of June 10th, July 10th.
Please say.
To clarify, the June meeting was redone on July 10th. July 10th was the actual redo of the June meeting. I have those minutes, and I've given you the July 18th, which is the actual July meeting minutes. So you have 2 minutes, even though we met twice last month.
Do we have a correction to the July meeting? Okay. How about the June 17th meeting? I believe. Say again?
That's what our just adjustment to the June meeting, that's why I'm confused.
Let me see if I got this correct. Art motioned for approval of the 2 minutes with the correction of one date. The June 10th is actually July 10th. Your correction is the July 18th, you are not present.
And the June meeting
The
minutes
18th
with the
was a
June 17th
Thursday.
date on them.
I'm sorry?
The June meeting minutes have the June 17th date on them.
I need to change the date. I will change the date.
They all say 2023.
Yeah.
July 18th was a Thursday.
It was. I will change the dates of both the minutes, make sure the dates are correct on the 2 minutes that the meetings we had in July. I'll make sure Amy is not at the July 18th meeting. So therefore, there's only 2 corrections. Okay.
Think much more, it's Bingham Township. Not Brigham.
Mhm. So I'll have to go back and check who made the motion for the approval of that minutes to make that correction. You were not at the July 18th meeting, neither was Amy. So whoever had the motion, I need to correct that, who had made the correct motion, because the meetings were recorded.
Gonna look around the room for a few minutes to see if there's any other changes.
And I don't see anyone virtually making any other changes.
I don't think I have any changes. I guess mm, just for our future consideration, do we need play-by-play notes? I think the Parks Commission has more summarized ones that might help us avoid some of these in the future.
The
So
only
then-
reason we have play-by notes is some people from the outboard wants their comments in there. So that's why you have that. That's the only reason. Because Cheryl is not here. And sometimes when it's really deep stuff, she wants play-by-play notes of her remarks that was in there.
So my question to the outboard is, how detailed do you want them? Do you want it word for word, or do you want the general idea and comments like the MPOs do and other agencies do? I mean, getting your comments in, yes, correct. Getting your concerns, issues, things, correct, yes. Making sure your questions are there, making sure your points are there is one thing. Do you want them word for word, or do you just want them the general idea?
I'd prefer shorter minutes that I could more quickly read and wrap my head around and refer to. I guess I'm more of a bullet point person than a complete transcript person.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'd echo that sentiment. I also think they're probably more useful to folks outside of this board when they're shorter so that they're easier to comprehend and understand what the outboard is trying to communicate.
Thank you.
I agree.
Used to
Thank
work
you.
for an organization that would have people that say, but on the board minutes for July 18th, it says thus and so. And sure enough, somebody said that, but it wasn't an action of a board. It's just something one person said at a meeting.
Right. Please keep in mind, the video is published. There's the word for word is in the video. The minutes is the summary of, if people want to know word for word, they can see the video.
I'll review the video before the meeting, so we can go back and look. The minutes is what we have to refer to, verify if that was us and that's what we said and how we voted. I mean, if you are a lawyer and wanted to challenge something, you go to the video, but since the video is not sent out to everybody, the minutes is what we have to refer to, and just checking how things went at the meeting.
Oh, we'll be sure to be thorough in making sure the main point, the full understanding of that point, and those things are made and expressed by the person who said them. We'll be thorough in that thing, just not verbatim.
Yeah, I think I'd also echo that while the videos are not necessarily sent out, I believe they are available for folks to watch, right?
Yep, they're always posted in the Agenda Center. Yep.
Yeah, they're sitting in the same spot as the minutes.
So going forward, we'll be sure to make sure our notes are.
Any other comments? Or do we have a second to approve the minutes with the changes that Nish has enumerated? I'll second. That's Randy.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion carried.
Thank you.
The first item in the regular outboard agenda is the transportation multimodal plan.
This you will have to see there's a small brief in your packet. You have the full hard copy packet. This is not a presentation. I'm just giving you what the consultant provided us. The consultant is WSP. WSP is putting all of our plans, projects, programs into a single document and called the Transportation Multimodal Plan. There's been wrong thing. I had this thing mixed up. Just a second, let me. All right, let me find the correct file and open the right one. I think that the last meeting I presented to y'all, this transportation multimodal plan, I went over it, showed you all the maps that are put all the projects together into one set of maps and one set of documents, the highway projects and multimodal projects, the bike ped projects, transit projects, rail projects into one set map for the whole area. WSP has gone and created a new prioritization process to determine how these projects would be implemented, which ones are more important than others, which ones are more valuable than others, but this is based on a prioritization unique to Orange County. The prioritization, like the spot process is a data-driven mathematical formula that gives you scores based on data-driven analysis and math, and the formulas associated with it that gives you a score. In their prioritization, it ranks which projects are more important than the others based on those scores, which I reviewed last time. This prioritization is unique to Orange County, following the overall premise of SPOT and the prioritization process and being a mathematical driven process is this data driven results of a formula based way, like a bike ped. The bike ped projects, even though there's multiple projects in bike ped, there's like 200 some projects in bike ped. How do we determine which ones are more important than others? How do we evaluate them data wise? Which one should be done first, second, third, which organizing them all 200 some. So there's 6 different criterias that were done to determine, and this is WSP created this as unique for Orange County. One criteria for bike ped scores would be access to schools. It weighs 20% on the score of a bike ped project in Orange County. How do you get access to schools? The other is density in residential and employment. How do you get access to jobs? People where density people live. That weighs 13% of the score. There's access to points of interest. Where do people want to go? Shop, entertainment, or anything like that. Resources. It presents 25% weight of the score. Access to recreation spaces, parks, other recreation trails and stuff. That's 8%. Access to bus stops. How do you get to a bus stop on a bike ped with your bike and walk into a bus stop? That weighs 20% for a bike ped score. A connection to disjointed parts, like gaps in the area. If there's gaps in bike ped stuff, how do you connect that? Weighs about 13%. And these have mathematical formulas unique to Orange County, like access to schools is a half-mile buffer around the school. If the bike ped project is within that half-mile buffer around the school, it gets 22% of the score. If it's a half a mile within a park, it gets 8% of the score. If it's a half mile within a bus stop, if a bike ped project is across a half mile within a bus stop, it gets 20% of the score. So all these criteria is unique to Orange County, help determine how bike ped projects are prioritized.
Fish, are you sharing that screen? And am I led into the meeting? Because I don't know if I'm in the right link.
Let me make sure you have the link to the meeting. Second.
I've been in the waiting room, so I don't like.
Oh, you're in the waiting room?
I think so.
My mistake. I'm sorry.
No problem.
My big goof. I don't see it in the waiting room. I don't see a waiting room.
Unless I got the wrong link. And I don't want to take us on the path. I just took the.
You must be with us because we can hear you and talk to you.
He's not able to see the presentation that I'm sharing.
Which is fine.
I will get you the full presentation. I'll mail you the full presentation. I'll mail you the scoring criteria and stuff if you have any comments, questions on the scoring criteria. Bridges, if there's a bike ped that goes over a bridge, density of employment and residential employment, connection to other areas, that bridge, if it's a bike ped on that bridge, it's 50-50 as to access to disjointed neighborhoods. Is it going to connect some neighbors together, or is it going to help connect to people living in high density and low density and jobs and markets, stuff like that? This is based on the formula itself right now, is just based on population and employment, and then half a mile around that center is where areas of population and employment are. I can get you more information about that criteria. I can try to get some more information regarding that math. You're gonna get an echo. You need to mute me. Yeah. Transit projects. There's I don't know how many transit projects were compiled together. I think there's like 80 or 90 some projects that were transit related projects in this list. Um, increase to local services like county government services, that weighs 26%. Increase to regional services. If you're connecting to one service to another service, that's 12% of the score. Um, areas of job access, improves to school, access to schools and jobs. I mean, school as in higher education, like universities. This school is a little different than the bike ped school. This is more to universities, how we connect to Durham Tech, UNC, and other Duke and other places. Areas of higher density for population, access to points of interest, hospitals. We serve a lot of dialysis and hospital things. If your access to hospitals is is 5 points for the score. Highway and new roads was considered the last criteria, was the last mode to be evaluated, and it went through 3 different criteria. Improving access and connectivity would affect the score of a highway project. Managing congestion would affect the score of a highway project, and then its impact on, would the project have an impact on freight movement? Freight, it gets like 7%, managing congestion gets like 50%, and improving access and connectivity was like 43%. And that includes improving roads and mainly new roads, mainly in the creation of new roads or widening roads. Modernizing roads went through a different criteria, different scoring, different math, improving access and connectivity based on the adopted model, managing congestion, and then improving freight movement. So these math and these formulas were the initial set of criteria, and the public weighed in on those criteria, public weighed in on that, and then the technical committee, the core technical team weighed in on that. So you had a professional opinion on those criteria and the public opinion on those criteria. Other criteria that were also used is environmental justice. It had a weight of 27%. Safety, 33%. These are additional ways of calculating that were added to, even though each criteria score went through their one thing, even though each of the modes went through their own individual criteria as modes, when they were put together, they had to go through these as well. Cost benefit analysis and multimodal analysis. These are also mathematical formulas that affected the score of the project. And realizing all these criterias and scores, and also, don't let me forget, mode split. Throughout the course of the day, a person will go through use different modes of walk part of the day, take the bus another part, ride their car another part, or through the week, change their modes of travel. So that mode split is also factored into this, just as it is in the triangle regional model. And guess which project, and I'm going to stop sharing the slide, and I'm going to share the next one. And I'm going to zoom in first so y'all can see. And then I'm going to share, and I'm going to ask y'all to guess which one ranked number 1. Or you can read the list and which one ranked number 1. Throughout all this math that I just explained and all this stuff that I explained about the criteria of bike ped, highway, transit, of all that whole collage of projects, guess which one is number 1? Orange Grove Road and I-40 is ranked number 1. This is unique to Orange County. This is specific for Orange County. I mean, this is why this work was so important. Of all the projects that we have in this multimodal in the transportation plan, multimodal transportation plan, local plans, collector street plans, and all these library of stuff that we have, Orange Grove Road is ranked number 1.
Hey, Nish, one quick question on that. The bike ped criteria says that connecting facilities are a big part of that. Does Orange Grove have connecting facilities?
There's a transit stop on Patriots Point on Orange Grove Road. There's a school on Orange Grove Road.
Are there connecting like pedestrian facilities that would make up some of that mode specific score?
Yeah, it is transit. There's part of it is sidewalk. There's a portion of the sidewalk that is in Hillsborough. The portion of this project is from Mayo Street all the way down to Cedar Ridge High School. and to a little further down, I think to Dodson
Okay.
Crossroads.
I guess, is that a bike ped project or a bike ped bridge project, given that most of the project is not a bridge?
That one is just a
Because
grade
that,
separation. Yeah, that's a bridge. That's a point.
okay.
That the one number
Does
one
the
is a
bridge
point. Yeah.
connect to any bike ped facilities on the other ends?
Uh, Not that the bridge itself doesn't have any bike ped facility, and that's why the new project
Okay.
should. That's why
Okay,
it
that
scored
seems like
86%. I mean, if you look, yeah,
something in the scoring that is a little weighted.
yeah. And I think there's other projects that scored similar. Let me see the original sidewalk that, uh, where's the original Orange Grove Road sidewalk? The full sidewalk project. It scored 54%, the Orange Grove Road sidewalk. I'm trying to see if there's another Orange Grove Road one. Yeah, that scored 38 and 52.
Yeah, I guess I'd just note that having just peeked at some of the initial ones, it seems that the connected disjointed parts seems to be a little off there on.
Yeah, I see what you mean. There's Orange Grove, that's Orange High School. That's Orange Grove Road, 4-foot pace shoulder and sidewalk scored 43%.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm certainly glad it's a county priority. I think it's just it it does raise a little bit of question about how the scoring was done. I'd also, was there any documentation on public feedback for this plan?
yes. No, WSPU is putting all that together when they finalize this plan. They're working on a narrative to consolidate. I'll be bringing this plan back to you in September, late September, for your recommendation to approve this plan or any changes to the plan. And one thing I
Okay,
would let them
I
know to go back and check the scores to reevaluate the scores on this.
I guess in that case, would you want us to recommend approval tonight if you plan to bring it back?
No,
That's the
don't recommend
recommended
approval because
action.
you just provide
Okay,
feedback right now. Just
that's
provide
the
feedback like
recommended,
this. Yeah.
yeah, that's the recommended action on the agenda. So just making sure that's not what we want to do.
No. I will have to get the consultant to come and explain that a little bit more to organize how some of these are prior and ranked because the scores are a little confusing as I go through it. Because I'm seeing some Orange Grove Road a few times in several other places. Like Medben Oaks Road scored in some places. So other projects, Orange Grove Road Connector, that's a different project.
Yeah, I guess the other question for this, is there a reason the improvements in the jurisdictions are included if this is an Orange County specific metric?
If there's specific projects that are in the town itself, I need to isolate them out because the main focus of this was the unincorporated areas of Orange County. The Hillsborough, Chapel Hill, Carrboro were invited to participate in this process, but we weren't going to talk about their projects and we weren't going to influence their projects. This is not town projects. This is more the unincorporated areas of Orange County projects. So if there are, and Josh, if you see some of them, please let me know so I could flag them out to not be scored unless you want them part of this process or not. The main focus was the unincorporated areas of Orange County. I know they cross into town limits. It's just a matter of whether they want that town limit included or should be scored or not.
Yeah, just looking at the maps on pages 29 and 30, it looks like there are a number of projects that are fully within Hillsborough, Carrboro, and Chapel Hill.
Okay. So that's another thing I need to let them know to isolate those projects out. So give you all the scoring stuff, so make sure you all have the scoring materials. If you have comments on the scoring, the math, have them review the scores and make sure they have a better way of explaining the ranking of them, how they're ranked, and isolate out the town projects. Any other questions, comments? If y'all have them, please send them to me so I can include them in my report back to the consultant, let them know, hey, now that you're drafting the final document, we're presenting in September for the final action with these issues addressed, and then hopefully go to the board in October.
Yeah, I guess, question, would the goal be to have these projects be the ones that you submit to Spot, the ones that are the top
No,
priority?
no. This is not that. This is just simply putting together one master document of consolidating all our projects. This has got nothing to do with Spot. This has got nothing to do with prioritization or anything like that. This is simply a way of having a single document to rule them all, kind of thing. It's not, I mean, like I said, I've tried to create this master project document several years ago, made a map out of it, and it turns into a spaghetti map. So right now, this list is simply to put everything together into one document, one map, one set of maps, one set of publications that we can share with MPOs and RPOs if we need to make any changes. The Spot prioritization step will come later as to which one of these we want to pull out and say, okay, these are our priorities.
Yeah, I think I would just, it would make, still, to me, in my opinion, it would make the most sense to submit the projects that have the best chance at Spot funding. I think
Right.
having a prioritization and a score for each project has some value to it, but having that replace our approach to Spot, I think would cost us some money.
Yeah, understood.
Anything else?
Seeing no hands, hearing nothing else. I'm going to turn the floor over to Nelson Nygaard now. They're going to share their presentation on the short range transit plan. I'm gonna let me move this to you so they can hear. Oh, that's fine. Yeah. Well, I was thinking.
All right, so. Okay, so hopefully folks on the other end can hear me. And we won't get too much of an echo.
Yep. Sounded good.
And hopefully folks. Okay, so hopefully if folks are talking, we can hear out of my laptop then as well.
Yeah, sounds
Okay.
good. Coming through clear.
Great, thank you. So again, I'm Miranda with Nelson Nygaard. We are here presenting updates on our short-range transit plan for Orange County Public Transportation. And tonight, we're going to give you an update on the project status, the strategies we're recommending, our current phase 2 engagement, and then next steps. So just the project status, what is the Orange County Short Range Transit Plan? If you weren't here for our last presentation, this is identifying opportunities to improve transit services in Orange County and create an implementation plan for the next 5 years through the end of 2030. And an important part of this process is talking with stakeholders, transit riders, and then people who live and work in Orange County and the surrounding area about what improvements they want to see over these 5 years of the short range plan, guided by the county transit plan. And the goals driving this project: develop an operating and capital transit improvements for Orange County,
reviewing potential funding sources for transit beyond the county transit tax, creating a detailed implementation plan for fiscal year 2026 to fiscal year 2030, and then recommendations as well for the post 2030 timeframe. And then these plan recommendations will be used as inputs for the next long-range transit plan. We are nearing the end of this project. Last November, we kicked it off, did a review of existing conditions of transit and transportation in the county, did an initial round of public engagement. Those boards, if you're in this room, you can see the two of our engagement boards from the first round where we were asking kind of open-ended questions. What are people looking for in transit? Getting the information out there. And then from that, we developed a set of transit strategies, and we are bringing those strategies to the public now in phase 2 of our engagement, which we will then put into a final transit plan for the county for the next 5 years. I think I'll just dive right into our recommended strategies. You can also see them summarized in the packets and on the flyers that my colleague Sam handed out. There's a map and summary of them as well if you want to follow along there, as well as the slides. We developed this plan by first drafting the strategies based on the existing conditions and on our findings from engagement. And we then developed an evaluation framework to prioritize those, similar to the prioritization that Nish just spoke about. And we then evaluated those strategies and prioritized them within the budget that we identified, looking for room for strategies through grants and finding new sources of funding to be able to expand transit in Orange County. And our strategies have 3 main types. These are transit service strategies, which those are, what you would kind of think of as like new bus routes, changing bus routes, policies and programs, strategies that the agency can use kind of on a more operational or administrative level to improve transit, and then capital improvements, so physical projects like bus stop improvements. In the full short range transit plan document that was shared with you, there's information on the evaluation and prioritization framework that we use to score the projects, which we then adjusted based on feasibility, based on public feedback, based on those more kind of qualitative, what might score better for state funding based on previous plans, that sort of thing. So I think we'll dive into the transit service strategies projects first. We have a series of projects proposed for the first part, kind of the short term, 2025 to 2027, and then a project for the later part of the period, 2028 to 2030. The first is improving the current mobility on demand service that Orange County offers. Create clear zones because it's an existing service that is underutilized, we found, given the potential demand within the service area. Microtransit service is well suited for Orange County. We think this can be a really good service and a good use of money. We want to make sure people are aware of it and know what to expect and how to use it. So we're recommending early on creating these zones for trips that are faster and, with less wait time within like the Mebane and Hillsborough area, and then consistent wait times in the more rural areas, adding the ability to book trips by phone call instead of just via the app. And we are not recommending any changes to hours of service at this time. So this is not a significant operational cost increase. This is just a change in service provision to try to make the service better and focus on making sure people know that it exists. Our second recommendation is to formalize the discontinuation of the Orange Alamance connector and reinvest those resources into other transit projects that better serve the needs of residents. So residents who currently live along the Orange Alamance Connector Corridor will still have access to a number of transportation services, including those that they'll be within the improved mobility on demand service zone. The ODX will continue operating during peak hours. There's a new circulator proposed for local service in Mebane, and there will be improvements to the Hillsborough circulator in Hillsborough. So there will still be options for people living along here, and we hope that reinvesting those resources into higher demand services will be a way for Orange County to improve transit for as many people as possible. Our next strategy is improving the Hillsborough circulator by implementing the reverse circulator, which means splitting it into two smaller loops that will have a timed layover at the Sportsplex with an improved frequency every 45 minutes instead of every 60. Changing the alignment slightly to improve travel times and on-time performance, get people where they're going faster, and expanding its service span. So running from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. instead of ending at 5 p.m. And this is one place where that reinvestment would be going, is increasing service on the Hillsborough Circulator, which is Orange County Public Transit's highest ridership route that gets significant ridership throughout the day and has experienced some increased demand, even despite the pandemic. We want to continue investing in that service. We also are looking to invest in the Mebane Circulator, which was adopted in the Mebane Comprehensive Transportation Plan and the BGMPO Metropolitan Transportation Plan. And it would operate with one bus hourly, Monday to Friday, from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. We are also recommending a slight change to the Orange Chapel Hill connector to align it more closely with Go Triangle's Route 420. Currently, the Orange Chapel Hill connector runs during the midday, while the 420 operates during the peak period, but there's a little bit of overlap, and they're similar but not exactly the same, and it can cause a lot of confusion among the public. So we're looking to have these run the same alignment, so run the same path, stop at the same stops, and there'll be slightly fewer trips on the Orange Chapel Hill connector in the afternoons. There's no overlap because that way it'll save Orange County a little bit of money. There won't be two buses making the same trip with different names on the front. Just try to keep things simple for riders. And that we're recommending to do in a few years when Go Triangle shifts their alignment to go on Highway 40 once road construction's over on there, and time those changes together, roll it out as one kind of more all-day service to the public so that they kind of think of it as like, yeah, there's always a bus that does this. And then we are also recommending operating demand response service, the program-based demand response, which are things like Department of Social Services, like work program, access to employment, EdTap, those sort of program-based services. Operate those with set hours on Saturdays and Sundays. Currently, Saturday operation is limited, and there's no service on Sundays. And these are, important lifeline services for a lot of rural residents to get to doctor's appointments, to get to jobs. And we found a couple opportunities for additional funding through leveraging local matches, working with Department of Social Services and Department of Aging to purchase trips from Orange County, kind of finding ways in the budget to get more for our dollar and expand these services. And if the service operates 7 days a week, there's options for additional funding sources that will open up that don't currently exist because it's not a 7-day-a-week service. So this is something that we hope will It'll take a few years to implement while grants are worked out, but this is something that we hope can be implemented by FY28 to expand those program-based services. Guess I'll pause there. I feel like I'm just talking at everyone. Do you have any questions so far on the transit services?
You understand, these strategies didn't come up by themselves, it's all, they came with the report and everything that we worked together with, throughout this whole planning process. With the towns, jurisdictions that have helped participate in this, the NPOs participated in this, DOTs participated in this, court, and these strategies came in as a consensus through that collects was work with us and I to create what is the next plan.
The question I had on the data, I don't see like on the service performance. With COVID, obviously we took a big downward slope. Can we have 2023 numbers? What I'm trying to figure out is how much is return back to quote unquote normal? I know in my day-to-day experience, nobody seems to want to leave their house anything.
Yeah,
What are we seeing for the uptake and what's the projection?
That's a great question. And I think also is a good point about the data that's available in the short range transit plan that is distributed here. There's going to be an additional set of appendices to the final plan that will have the full existing conditions report, which will include 2019 and 2023 data for each of the demand response programs for each of the routes. And for this, since it's like kind of the public facing, giving a general overview, it doesn't have it all. I would say the Hillsborough Circulator is not fully at what it was in 2019, but it's not very far off in terms of rides per day. Demand response services declined slightly, but not significantly at any point, because again, those are kind of those lifeline services. People still had to go to the doctor. But the Orange Alamance connector did not significantly recover and was getting, I think, fewer at some point, one ride a day in 2023. So that was one of the reasons we are recommending discontinuing that. It's like that person can call MOD, get a ride directly, be a little more efficient.
Study, even though the circulator came up and other plans came up, and no circulator should be able to replace it. The need for the node circulator became more down because they have a strong support need for that. So managing our sources to provide a long-standing project that's been the books for sense.
But yeah, it's a good question about the data. Thanks for that.
And I didn't want to give you a 200-page document. This report that
High level graphs, simple, bullet points and graphs.
and I believe y'all have the website that's posted the existing conditions posted on the website.
Yes, and the full existing conditions is posted on the project website as well. So that has some of the data viewable.
Really, I have a question, and this really doesn't speak to it, but reported to me by an acquaintance that she had tried to set up mobility on demand service for her. She's not driving. And she found the application process particularly involved and cumbersome. I didn't know if there was the appropriate be to put in a suggestion here to try to streamline the ability to sign up for this service, because frankly, she gave up.
That is, I think, a wonderful segue to our next section, which is policy and program strategies, one of which is to streamline the demand response booking process. Because I think that is something we heard in our public engagement, is that the process for figuring out what to ride can be difficult if you're looking for that kind of on demand. Because mobility on demand is the kind of like online app based one. And then there's demand response programs like rural on demand that, yeah, can have a lengthy application process. So that is actually something that we're recommending working on. I think I'll just jump into policies. So first we have the short-term policy and program strategies. The first is investing in alternative fare payment methods. Right now, you can't pay with cash for or the Orange County buses that have a fare or for MOD, and we're recommending that Orange County work with UMO, the app that is used for this, and the technology provider for mobility on demand to provide cash loading options for fare payment. And so that's utilizing things where it's like you can go to food. They're working currently about getting something in a Food Lion where it's like a vending machine. You can go and you put cash in and you get a transit card out of it. And so even if you don't have a bank account or a credit card, you can still utilize cashless transit. And so that's something that the technology vendors are capable of, and talks have already begun for that process. So we're encouraging that to continue and investing in more locations where people can do cash loading for their transit cards for fare payment, as well as integrating that fare payment with other transit agencies in the region that use the same transit pass provider with UMO. Next time the contract comes up, Orange County can have its contract ensure that it's like, if you put cash on your Go Triangle card, you can also get on the Orange Chapel Hill connector. Like, no matter if, because that way it's the same, right? So work on getting that done in the next couple of years, next contract, streamlining that payment process. Also recommending that Orange County runs a transit information campaign. So, run kind of a promotional campaign telling people about the services, the key destinations, information on how to ride the bus, how to ride MOD, how to ride mobility on demand. What is MOD? How do you do it? Focusing on, look at these new service zones. This is how it's going to work. Invest a little staff time and some advertising budget in letting folks know about these services that already exist and getting that ridership up. And then the third one for the short term is streamlining the demand response application and booking process. Because this is something that we heard a lot in public feedback, is that it can be really complicated and a little confusing. So ensuring that that process to apply the first time is straightforward, and then this will include additional measures to help submit for Medicaid reimbursement, because that's an additional source of funding that we could be tapping into that we're not fully tapping into currently because of some difficulties with paperwork and all of the things that it requires to get that reimbursement. So this will both improve on the customer side and also help Orange County get higher reimbursement for Medicaid. And a big thing that will help with improving that experience is a longer term strategy we have, which is to hire a mobility manager for the county. And so this is a grant funded position that the NCDOT funds that we could apply for that would cover kind of the management of information and travel training needs for on-demand services for the elderly and people with disabilities. And so they would oversee that application process. They'd be the primary contact for anything on-demand related in Orange County. And they could sort of help with some of these other policy and program strategies that we're recommending, making sure people have all the right information, making sure we're getting that Medicaid reimbursement. And that's something that, there's a grant cycle, so you have to do the application. It'll take a few years, but that's proposed for kind of the later term half of this short range transit plan. Yeah.
Excuse me, did you say that NCDOT would fund that position?
That's a grant position. There is grant funding available for a mobility management role. And there's one at the Department of Aging. So we're working with that the MPO funds.
The same grant state, the state can fund one in Oregon.
So we're gonna try to help get that. Because a big part of this project, is there's that they want to help, they'll help fund this position. So if we can apply to have someone do that job, take something off of Nish's plate, hopefully give him a little bit of a break. But yeah, that's a state grant funded position.
Service coordinator plan, which we're part of two of those.
So again,
We're already part of, well, you need a, locally coordinated service and service plan, we're already part of two of those, the MPO and the RPO. Hence, the Department of Education is able to get one funded through the MPO because in that MPO plan, they're able to get that funded. If you probably don't Brandy beat them. We could do the same through the state, through the same fund, 5310 is the fund. 5310, the MPO pays for one, we can work with the state and pay for another.
is that in the mix?
Yes, okay. There's other things in the mix that I would, it's item 6B is, I would explain other items in the mix.
Right. And then another kind of later medium-term project is to conduct a fare study, which would study the potential for reduced fares for older adults and people with disabilities on mobility on demand, and and looking into the viability of fare-free service on not just the Hillsborough Circulator, but of the other Orange County fixed route bus services as well. Because, you have to look into how much is that going to cost to go fare-free? Do you save money on fare collection? And there is funding available from the state and from the federal government to fund the study of that for the planning process. So we can apply for that and hopefully do a study to look into the reduced MOD fares, which we think could be good, as well as the viability of fare-free service, which people expressed interest in. That would be part of a fare study that we did not do for this project.
You were saying?
That would be part of a fair study. We need to do that. That would be, we need to scope of work for that fair study.
Gotcha, we haven't done anything.
Fair study's never been done. Last time a fair study's been done was when Britt Martin was here. That was a long time, but that's back in 2013.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, because right now fares don't make up a significant part of the budget, but you'd have to do, it's like, it's enough that you'd notice if it wasn't there tomorrow, probably, but, we'd want to really make sure. So I think that then brings us to the capital improvement strategies. And so these are sites that we prioritized into the medium and long term. The medium term, because capital projects are going to mostly be grant funded. There's not just like a big pile of money sitting around that we can easily tap into. And so a lot of the things we thought about when prioritizing these, along with how do they fit into the goals of the transit plan and of Orange County, also, what's eligible for spot funding, for other for safe routes to school grants, for access to transit grants. And so these other sources of funding that exist that we can tap into, but these are a little longer term. We prioritized ones we think are either less expensive or are more likely to be funded or more important earlier, and others that would then be outside the short range transit plan timeframe, but we recommend doing if money is available and continuing to invest in after the FY30 timeframe. The first are upgrades to existing bus stops, just adding a shelter, adding a bench, passenger information, better lighting, establishing a physical stop where we know passengers are trying to flag down buses, but there isn't even a sign in the ground right now. And there are 4 locations we're recommending for these, all within the medium term. We think these are less expensive than some of the larger improvements we'll look at in the next few slides, but these are all serving the Hillsborough Circulator or the Mebane Circulator. We're also recommending investment in what we're calling rural transit hubs, which are sort of locations in Orange County that are not on a fixed bus route, but might be key destinations where people would be booking mobility on demand or demand response rides, where we see in the data we already have where are people trying to go when they use these point-to-point like demand response services. And so investing in a bench, a shelter, informational signage. How do you book a ride on making sure there's a sign that's out there and laminated that tells people how do you book a ride on mobility on demand, and making sure we're continuing to invest in the more rural areas as well that maybe don't yet support fixed route transit with density, but still have people who use forms of public transit that aren't a fixed route bus. We have, and that includes a number of places along the proposed discontinued Orange Alamance connector for those riders who would be shifting to a different type of service. And those also would have lower costs since bus stops already exist there, but making them a little nicer space to wait as well. And finally, some locations where we recommend improving pedestrian access to transit. So crosswalk, like safe crossings, sidewalks, ADA upgrades. These are a lot of places similar to kind of where there are bus stop improvements, where there are people who maybe are just a little further than right at the bus stop, or there's the grocery store that's across a busy road from the bus stop, making sure people can actually use that safely. And these are ones that are also eligible for a number of additional grant opportunities that we detail in the plan for Orange County to tap into. So that's all of our strategies within the plan that we are currently bringing forward in public engagement for feedback. Because this is our kind of first, based on what we heard, this is what we wanted to bring forward and see how people react. So we're currently here doing phase 2 of our engagement from August 19th through September 11th is when we're going to be closing down the survey. We have a website that's up. There's an online survey. The flyers that we handed out here also have the survey on the back. We've been out driving around, dropping these off at apartment buildings, public libraries, trying to get the information out there. I think, yeah, our strategy, we have these flyers that we're putting up, which include a link to the website where we have the plan, as well as the short kind of more bullet point information on the projects, and people can go online, read more about them if they want, and then give feedback online or via the paper surveys. We'll be here hosting some pop-up events to talk to people in person, meet people where they're at key community locations. We're putting up informational posters at busier bus stops with shelters, and we're also doing publicity, dropping off materials at community locations, direct outreach to our community partners. There's also social media kit that we have and a press release. If any of you are part of organizations that send out newsletters regularly or have a social media page, we would love to share our media kit with you and have you share that out with all of your connections. Make sure that everyone knows what's going on, can read about the project, read about these proposed strategies, and let us know what they think. The survey is going to be open through September 11th, and we'll be out talking to folks in person at a variety of pop-up events until then. Yeah, so we have some events, the senior centers, Walmart, community centers will be at First Friday at Arts Mill. We'll be at the Mebane Farmers Market. And as well as that, handing out again, pass out some flyers. We're hoping folks will continue to distribute those among their networks as well to try to get the word out and get people to give us some feedback on the strategies. And that's also why we're here tonight, to get all of your feedback and let you know where we're at. So we'll be doing this through September 11th. After that ends, we'll be finalizing kind of the appendices that I mentioned that have like the detailed evaluation matrix and how every project scored, you know, like what all of those prioritization steps were. And we'll revise the strategies and implementation plan based on the feedback we receive. You know, if anything, it's like, did we clearly miss something? Is there something that doesn't make sense? And then we'll be presenting the final SRTP at the next OUTBoard meeting, I believe, which that was something I wanted to bring. I saw in the, originally we discussed potentially rescheduling it.
It's gonna be a meeting. Not maybe, but I need more time. And then you would, so maybe they say like school was gonna need one more time, so I'm asking for the next. Do it at the end of September rather than 30th.
Sounds good to me. Do you have any events planned locally a week from today?
We do not. We have, it's today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and then in September. But nothing next week.
Did you bring these with you?
We did. Would you like some copies?
Yeah, I have an event a week from Monday that I'd like to make folks aware of this.
Yeah, we have happy to give you at least 25 copies. Would you also? Yeah.
Thanks for helping spread the word.
Just right now, sorry, why this didn't occur to me years ago, but did Alamance County provide transportation service?
Yes.
We're spending a fair amount of money on having collector routes and other things in Alamance County. Do we get funds from them to support?
Yeah, you
services
need to
we're
remind.
providing in Alamance?
That's a long answer. I couldn't give you a long answer to that. You do
I
or?
think the short answer is yes, there's funding coming from the MPO that serves from BGMPO, the Burlingame.
Burlington Graham and the BGMPO does provide us some funds through 5307, does have some allocated to us, like 4% of their budget. 5307 budget, they do provide that, and they also provide to Go Triangle. Alamance County has their own transit agency, ACTA, Alamance County Transit Association. They also have Link Transit in Burlington. They also have Park. They have 3 other agencies that provide transit in Alamance County that do service, and we also provide transit because of the Orange Alamance. We used to be doing Orange Alamance. We'll be with the member circulator, we'll be doing the same thing.
Do we feel like we're fully compensated for the services we're providing in Alamance County?
Not at this time. That is going to be a work in progress with the implementation of the member circulator. We may be able to pursue more 5307 funds through that implementation and maybe transit tax funds as the transit tenant in replacement of the Orange Alamance.
Sorry, just to get that right, would we be talking about Orange County Transit Tax funds? To fund a service that's primarily. Oh, sorry, to guess,
What are you looking for from us tonight?
You have a month to provide feedback comments. I mean, like you said here, said that we're in the process of doing public engagement. We'll be coordinating and collaborating with them. So you'll probably be seeing me at some of these events and they'll be at the events and we'll be doing as marketing as much as possible. Our community relations department is helping spread the word. So spread the word, provide comments, feedback. Visit their website, visit the thing, provide comments interactively on it or send it to us, fill out the survey. And the more feedback, the better. Till then, I'll be bringing the plan will be coming to you in the September meeting for an actual action.
Yeah, I've got.
So we're not at, no action tonight other than just, any questions we're happy to answer. I think we're probably gonna head out after we present.
By all
So that
means,
we
you
can
got a lot to do.
get
Y'all
dinner
got-
after we've been traveling all day. Sorry to run out before the end of the meeting. But happy to hand off.
We appreciate you coming from Boston. We appreciate you coming from DC. We really appreciate y'all being.
I do have one quick question
I
if we
think
got
that's
time.
it from me then. Thank you
Oh,
guys so much
shoot.
for your questions, for listening. Yeah, please spread the word.
Hello,
Nish can
hello,
provide my email if
Josh is-
anyone wants to reach out.
Josh is trying to ask a
You can
question,
also, yeah, check
everyone.
out the website, fill out the survey, all of that.
Sounds like the
Hello?
room's,
Yeah.
I read the.
sounds like the room's got us muted. Oh, well.
Yeah,
That you
hold on.
provided, and I
Yeah.
enjoy the organization, the content, the presentation, I thought it was well done.
Oh, thank you.
Wait till you see the whole, the appendix in the document, it's probably a 400-page document by the time we're done with it.
Oh, sorry. Um,
Yeah, can y'all hear
Josh
There we
us
has a
go.
now?
question, sorry, Josh has a question, yes.
Hey, can y'all hear us now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess to follow up, Nish, you said potentially using transit tax funds for the Mebane circulator. Would that be Orange County transit tax funds?
We don't know. I mean, that's an ongoing process because like the Orange Alamance is a fixed route, is an improvement of service and stuff like that. Since the Orange Alamance is discontinued as a part of the fixed route continuation of existing services, it's the same project sheet. It's not a new thing. It's just a replacement of the current projects in the annual program.
Yeah, I guess I'd just kind of echo the concern about Orange County funding so much of our service that's really in Alamance. The primary part of the route is in Alamance. I think a small percentage of it does fall in the Orange County part of Mebane, but just making sure that we're getting compensated for the amount of service that we're providing on that would be something I'd be interested in. I think otherwise I'm very impressed and supportive of this plan.
The part funding 53, the part funding 50, the Mebane circular will be an ongoing discussion.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you. Great question.
Next item.
Somebody's echoing. It's all right.
Does anybody else want flyers?
Anybody want them? Pass them around.
Oh, shoot.
In your packet. Is this monster document by the Safe Ride to School. This is a new Safe Ride to School plan from the 2014 original one, which only included 3 schools. This now includes all 13 Orange County Public Schools. With it is detail. It's part of the scope of work that was approved by the school board and the superintendent who was participating in this process. The WSP is the consultant who's been hired to do some of the task work related to it. While this was an in-house project. I'm sorry, Josh, I didn't hear you.
I don't think the safe route stuff is in the online document. It might just be on the paper copies.
That's like. So.
I think I emailed it separately. I don't know if I put it in the packet
Oh,
because
okay.
it was a size thing that made the size document. I think I had emailed it to y'all, and then if it's not posted, I'll get it posted. But thank you for
Okay.
the note.
If it's separately, then I see it now. Yeah.
But thank you for letting me know. I need to go back and check if it is posted on the website in the original packet. Because it may be due to the file size of the whole packet. It was so large that it may not have gotten done. So I'll go back and check. But just to reiterate, this project started back in January, early this year, with WSP being done some of the task work, the existing conditions analysis. This was in coordination with the schools. We did the first round of public engagement. Well, semi-public engagement when the plan program started with the superintendent and the principal and a couple of people giving out the surveys and the program guide to this. The WSP went out to each of the schools in coordination with the principals and the vice principals and the staff to when is the best time to be out on the field, to be out in the things, to go around the 2-mile radius around each of the schools to do this thing. And again, we did not touch Carline. We could not touch Carline. We could not go to school property because they didn't want us involved in the school property itself. So this is mainly the areas around the school and the community around the school, which is county responsibility. So they did all 13 schools. That's the existing conditions report highlights the findings from the field work that the WSP did in the community neighborhood to see what the bike ped issues are so kids and people and faculty can walk and bike to and from school safely, including some of the traffic and transportation issues associated with that area. We did host a public engagement per the scope of work that was approved. The scope of work said that one public engagement would be during the summer when the school was out, with each of the principals and vice principals getting together into one meeting, and the superintendent and the school board and everybody who wanted to participate. Meeting went out. We got together into one virtual meeting, talked about each of the schools, Cedar Ridge, Orange High, Evelyn Cheeks, some of the schools that said, one school said, no, we don't have any kids walking and biking. Other school says we have a lot. So we did take that feedback. I'm putting together the final report. That was an in-house work that was done. I'm putting together that public engagement report right now. I'm going to be giving that to the consultant. I've already given the feedback, the bullet point feedback to the consultant. Now they're getting all that stuff together. And within your document is a series of recommendations. These are not final. Because we're giving them a little bit more time to the consultant, I'm getting the consultant to do a more detailed research into what are full recommendations for this project. So they're going to take a couple more weeks to formulate a final recommendations, a final plan. And those recommendations in the final plan with the public engagement report will be coming to you at the end of September, September 30th, for your action. So right now, again, like the other two documents, the other two plans, any and all feedback onto this document would be greatly appreciated. Please keep in mind during this process, we've been doing our best to get the schools involved as much as possible, beginning when the process started. And again, when the public engagement in the summer was trying to be done, while the schools and principals and vice principals participated, there was strong interest in that, and they do appreciate, I've given them the full document to provide feedback and comments on it. Haven't received anything from them yet. So hopefully we'll be following up with them again in the next few days to see if they have any other comments on it. So if you have it, please provide it. I will provide you the full final plan and seek your approval at the next September meeting.
Just have a question. I probably brought this up before. East Chapel Hill High is within Chapel Hill Township or proper, but there's the unincorporated part that's within that 2-mile radius. Do we work with them?
No, this does not include Chapel Hill Carver.
But do we ever work with them? Because the point is, we're saying is it's on Orange County owned property and land. And so that route to school, even though the school resides in Chapel Hill, they're not gonna care about the unincorporated part. So do we have a process to get that feedback and do sort of like, hey, when we hit the town border, it's still within that 2-mile radius for safe routes to school. It's just Chapel Hill's not gonna work on it and the county's not gonna work on it. So who owns that?
We will need to revisit that school later. And that's a very good point. That's a very important point. I'm sorry we missed it earlier in the research of this stuff. I mean, we would need to do that because I think I don't know, there's any school in Carver that would have that same effect if there's any unincorporated areas, because there's a lot of donut holes in that area. In Chapel and Carver, there's a little donut holes that are county owned, that are part of the ETJ. Not really town land, but town property, but they're part of the ETJ, so we need to, and I'm sorry we missed it in the original finding, but we will go back and revisit that as a possible amendment change to the amendment to the plan if we need to find those properties.
Yeah, I'll also add that.
Their own.
Yeah, one sec.
Safe routes to school program. I was principal at Carver Elementary, and we were involved heavily in those.
Even into the county area that's unincorporated, because the reason is that school is unique, because where it's geographically located, right? It's got unincorporated land around it that students are walking and.
There's also attendance areas in Durham County. But the safe routes to school really doesn't look at those boundaries other than what's within the attendance zone or the attendance area of the school.
So they will look at that.
Look at political.
So that we'll look at it from an attendance
Yeah,
and not necessarily the boundaries.
right, exactly.
That makes sense. Hopefully that's the case.
You know, I recall when you were there, and I would suspect a lot of your students had to cross through donut holes to get to the school at that time. Thinking back to Carver in 1990, so just kind of to your point, that, you know, the vision at that time was broader.
Yeah. Again, I think safe routes to school honors the attendance areas of the school and does not look at political, or county district boundaries.
The program itself it's a federal program. I mean, the
So
state,
it should be look at the attendance of where that geographic boundaries are and not like, look what you were saying, right? So that's really,
Josh, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, I guess I'd just note that Chapel Hill is undertaking a safe routes effort. We have a dedicated safe routes coordinator. Would be happy to connect y'all and have that be part of Chapel Hill's conversation, because I know that we're getting that conversation started.
Would Chapel Hill like to participate in giving feedback on this county school, safe route to school plan?
No.
I think less with the plan that exists today, just because it's fully for the county and it's
Yeah.
only county jurisdiction. But I think that ETJ part, Chapel Hill, that falls within the county across I-40, is
Okay.
something that we could look at in our planning efforts.
Awesome. Yeah.
it-
Yeah, they do have their own, they have their own safe
Yeah.
route to school. They have a safe route to school coordinator, so
it's
they
good
have
to know
they're a
that they
little,
can cross the boundaries
Yeah.
versus like the hard line, because I know there was some developments and it's like, you can see right where the sidewalk stops, right at that line. It's like,
yeah,
what the
they're a
heck?
little ahead of us. We're catching up.
In addition to school having an attendance zone, there's the Chapel Hill Carrboro City Schools District, line of which is drawn separate from the Orange County Schools District. So again, the interest in safe schools to plans would be within the districts and not across district lines.
And a
It's good to
possible
know.
update to this could be if we were to ever go to encompass the whole district itself. We didn't do this. We're just doing a
Right.
2 mile buffer.
That's good. Good to know. Appreciate that.
I don't know each of the schools' policy. We've asked. We've asked about their information, their process for the safe route to school, because my understanding is based on the person that we talked to, their transportation guy. They know the safe route to school program. They know the federal program. They know the requirements, the guidelines. They've been part of it earlier. And even though there's been changes to the new infrastructure bill that changed some of it, it's still a continuation. The new infrastructure bill starts funding the safe route to school program. What policies, programs that they have now inside the school, we don't know in detail yet. They're supposed to have some. I mean, when I researched this 2 years ago, some schools says they didn't want kids walking at all. They didn't want kids biking at all. We asked for the policy itself, wasn't provided in the policy. Any marketing material, the education stuff, because please understand the Safe Route to School program, when the infrastructure bill passed and became law and it funded the non-infrastructure piece first, the education piece first, the marketing, the programming, the where do you map and where do you walk, how do you walk, if you walk at all, what are the educational pieces? That was funded through the new infrastructure bill. For the last 2 years of the infrastructure bill, started funding some of the more improvements in preparation for the next update. So if I can get those copies and those policies and programs, that would be great, that we can update ours, but we're having to create our own right now.
Well, if they're being discouraged from walking, I feel like everything we work on here is just like, you know, you can't do one until you got the other, but you can't do that because you don't got that. So it's the same type of thing.
Like some schools, nobody walks because it's not safe to walk. And some schools, nobody walks because there's really nobody who lives near the school. And we have to be able to tease that out.
But there's places that are dangerous to walk and kids are walking anyway. They're not listening to the school's message or whatever, they're still doing it anyway. I mean, we heard the same thing in Eflin Cheeks, just as we heard in Cedar Ridge. I mean, well, I saw in Cedar Ridge. I didn't hear from Cedar Ridge. I saw in Cedar Ridge, but I heard in Eflin Cheeks. there's a strong demand in FLGs to people walk and bike and stuff because this community's right near that same area that they do want to walk, but they don't have the facilities and resources to do that. And they're still walking. I don't know how dangerous it is yet, but I need to go research that. But people know Orange Grove Road and see the people walking. Yes.
Dixon is not a safe place for anybody to be walking. However, when you look at the map that's drawn around that half-mile radius that people can walk, well, we've got all of Waterstone and Beckett's Ridge, which technically those kids could easily bike and walk to that school if they could actually get across the street.
If they can get on 86 at all.
Yeah, but again, we don't have that ability, so it's like, I guess my point that I'm trying to make is, some of our ability to do what we want, and we look at the safe routes to school, and a lot of the comments are, well, the road that it's on is not safe, or it's abutting to a road that's not safe, so I guess how does that help us get to what we need to do to make our schools safer to walk to, when the infrastructure where the school is actually at is gonna be so much greater than just putting in a sidewalk, right? We can't just put a sidewalk on across AL Stanback and say, okay, well, now you have a sidewalk to walk to. Well, you have to get safely across that street.
Like I said just a few minutes ago, yeah, I'll answer that in a minute.
No, and I just wanted to say, I had all the same thoughts you did as I was digesting that. I really have a whole series of comments I'd like to share with you and the consultants, but not here.
By all means, write them, send them, email them. Yeah, give us the comments, all the better.
But I could not begin to support the recommendations because I don't think there's any foundation there for support. They say build sidewalk here, build sidewalk there, but the reality is, from an engineering and cost perspective, they didn't provide any links or any maps of where the sidewalk would be run to and from. And, we need a lot more information
That's, yeah.
to get behind it. And the other thing I was wondering is how many parents today would want their kids to walk to school, even if the facilities were there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it takes what's happening in other areas where you've got a champion, right? You've got a parent champion who's like, I'm gonna be the parent who everybody's gonna walk. We're gonna have a chain of kids walking behind me. And we're gonna have basically the walking bus or the biking bus. And you have those champions, like, it's gonna take that for our county to recognize that our kids can actually walk to school. Our kids can bike to school. There are those places, you just need to be able to put in the infrastructure. But yes, again, put in the infrastructure, nobody's using it. Really using it because there's no infrastructure. It's so the cultural aspect that we have to change as well in our county.
And I provide two answers.
Sure.
Answer number one, the infrastructure. The infrastructure is the biggest challenge in the state. Bike ped in county and rural areas is like a death sentence. It's like a no. State can't fund it independently. It's either local funds or federal funds. Spot, no question, forget Spot. I mean, if you're in Hillsborough, maybe get some help. In Chapel Carborough, maybe get some help with bike ped because they have the PAL bill. The infrastructure itself requires more commitment, local commitment and federal commitment. It requires a plan. The Safer to School plan is one baby step. It's a step in having a full plan for all the schools and its infrastructure. County is now working with Stantec. MPO is hiring Stantec to do the county-wide bike ped plan. Stantec was selected from Alta and WSP and other firms to do a county-wide bike ped plan, while Deeper is going to be doing a trails plan. That's the next step. The second step, or the second leg in having a school-focused plan and a bike ped plan, which is bikes, trails, and other things, greenways and shared use paths along major corridors or schools and other things like that, transit access, that says, okay, you have more, our ducks are in more locally adopted plans that say we need the infrastructure in place to pursue federal, state funding or transit tax funding, because transit tax also pays for transit access improvements, transit funding, other mechanisms, transportation mechanisms that are multimodal oriented to help fund that bike ped through other means. That's the infrastructure piece. Having the facility there is like that, build it and they will come. Well, we don't know. If you build it, will they actually use it? Like you were saying earlier, just because you have the facility doesn't mean that they're gonna use it, or if you don't have it, people are using it. Well, we may have a piece of the puzzle of getting the infrastructure through those plans and through opportunities of funding through spots, STIP and other administrative things and other mechanisms to do that. We don't know what the next infrastructure bill is going to be to help fund that, hopefully a really good one. So that is one way through this. Right now, we don't have all those pieces. We don't have that leverage. When the Safe Route School Plan was done, only 3 schools were included. Well, this time, this plan, DOT is backing this. DOT is involved in that process. DOT is saying, okay, you're doing a good plan, you do a good process, a good start. Now you finish it. And the county's bike ped plan, when the Stantec does that process, the Stantec does that work, there'll be strong public engagement through that process. It'll be a year-long process. There'll be strong public engagement. Heidi's gonna be involved, and everybody's gonna be involved in that bike ped stuff. 86 Orange Grove Road, all those things that are long-standing county priorities. Orange High has been a long-standing priority with the bike ped stuff for kids going into that school. I mean, those will be other leverages that we have and build momentum to keep this thing going. I mean, I'm not stopping here at the Safe Route School and not stopping at the bike ped. So that, but the other part, the other answer is the messaging. The messaging comes from the Safe Route School program. The federal program, the Safe Route School program, and Josh, correct me if I'm wrong in this, is a educational program. It is a funded, like, if you have a Safe Route School coordinator, it programs that messaging part of schools, a county official working with schools to address bike ped walking safety in schools. Chapel Hill is ahead of us. We're trying to catch up to having a safe. This plan would allow us to get a safe school coordinator to do that messaging, to talk with the schools and say, hey, Orange High, this is your program, messaging program for addressing your kids and walking safety into school, whether the infrastructure is there now or not, or it's going to be there later in the future. And the same thing with other schools to have that coordinator. I'm glad Chapel was doing it. It's a model for us to follow in other places that are doing it. And I'm waiting to see if I can find a county that's doing the same in North Carolina. I don't know if that's happening yet.
I feel like we have the opposite problem here, Rich, because there is a culture of walking.
Exactly. So
There is, like, it's completely the opposite, and there's no infrastructure.
Right.
It's very, very dangerous.
Yes.
And I'm hearing these plans, and from experience, I also know that these things take a very long time. But these kids are walking every day. I mean, you could just see it in action happening. You have, yeah, you,
And unfortunately, unfortunately, Cedar Ridge had a kid get actually hit 2 years ago.
You have teenage kids driving to Salem. You have teenagers also walking
So,
driving past the
Yeah.
other team.
yeah, so
side by side, not even in a row, so.
I want you to know that there's been people on the board here for a long time that have been advocating the gas solution.
Okay, I'll give you that as my next update is when we give an update to other stuff. Let me talk about Cedar Ridge specifically later, but I hope I really understand your point.
We have schools where we do have kids walking, and we know that, right? And so that's where our priority needs to be when we're talking about safe routes to school. We have to prioritize the areas where we're all already knowing we're gonna improve the safety. We have those things. And yes, we do not need another kid to get hit. Please, nothing worse than what happens to the kid who did get hit. Our state knows that, our county knows that, and everybody's aware that this is a problem, right? We have to do something. If we don't prioritize the schools where our kids are already walking unsafely to school, we're failing as a community. And we continue to do that. And every time we bring this up, I'm a broken record. I say this every meeting. We do this and we're not doing anything to make that improvement. So when we talk about safe routes to schools, I am all about all of our schools being safe. But my point about the other schools where we don't have infrastructure, we don't have kids walking, those can't be our priority at the moment.
Yeah, right.
They are going to be our priority once we set a culture of that we can actually do this in our county. We say, just like the sidewalk that you were able to get put in, and we got the side, now we understand that we actually can have sidewalks, we can maintain a sidewalk. Those steps to go in the right direction for us to be able to put Cedar Ridge and Grady Brown at the top of our priority list to say, we can no longer allow our kids to unsafely walk to school, and that has to be our priority.
I have an update for you in just a minute.
Let's proceed with that update.
Yeah.
So we can,
Randy has a question. I can't forget this update because it's a
Every child who needs a ride to school has a ride available on the bus. The school districts would prefer that children ride on the buses because they see that as the safest route for them to get to school. So when you propose some of these solutions, you're arguing to a deaf ear because they feel like the safest route is already there.
good point.
And that the parents and students make choices for themselves, not to take the safest route to school, but to take a route that's perhaps less safe. So when you try to get cooperation from some of these principals and administrators in school districts, it sometimes falls on deaf ears because they think that, again, the safest route to school is.
and unfortunately, COVID may have changed that.
So what?
Unfortunately, COVID may have changed that where people got used to parents driving their kids to school and not using the school bus. I mean, I don't know. That's not that's anecdotal.
O'clock in the morning and my kid has to be.
I live in a neighborhood, the bus is driving 2 or 3 times in that same neighborhood and I'm seeing bus half empty.
That is my one comment is there needs to be parent engagement in this because the principals and the superintendent have their ideas about what's happening, but the parents actually know what they do and what might change. You don't have to engage all the parents in the whole district, but there has to be some.
Yeah.
That's what we're here.
I tried when we started this project. I tried. It didn't work out that well. And at the tail end of it, now everybody's saying, "Oh, there's a safer school plan being drafted." Where were we? I gave you the message back in January.
No, the administration does say that they want the kids to ride, but that's their solution. But there are like a couple of dozen homes right across the bridge. All those kids is all they have to do is walk. Yeah, they're taking.
And they walk. They're right across
They're
the.
right across, walk past the bridge, and then they're in school. So to convince them to wait, bus come pick them up, you know, whichever direction it might go. Hopefully, it's going in the direction of the school, and it's hard. That's the key.
By all means, just to close the item itself, if you have comments on the Safe Air School plan, provide them. Engage, get people to involve, talk about that, and get people to provide feedback and comments. And any feedback you have on this plan would be greatly appreciated. Like I said, I would be bringing back to you on September 30th a full plan for your consideration to show other recommendations, other strategies that are included in feedback. Maybe I'll get WSP to also give their presentation at that meeting if I can, and talk more about the plan itself. Orange Grove Road update. I'm working with WSP. We have an approved contract for planning and engineering to get the WSP engineering firm to come out there and do engineering and design for the sidewalk, Orange Grove Road. Right now, I'm working with DOT to finalize I got like 3 comments to address in that contract before it can be signed. That Orange Grove Road, the planning and engineering is one of the preliminary requirements in locally administered projects to build the sidewalk. The professional engineering that WSP is going to do is from that subdivision that's on right there on Mayo Street. There's a sidewalk on that subdivision right there by Mayo Street, and I forgot the Eflin Pond, things like that, something street. That sidewalk to New Grady Brown School Road. They're going to engineer that sidewalk. Over. Prefabricated bridge proposed in that structural design. No, sorry, 40. Yeah, under the bridge, under that part, yeah, then over, yeah. It'll be the overpass. Or a prefabricated bridge. They're gonna engineer that bridge. They're gonna design that bridge and they're gonna talk about it, present it as part of the scope of the work. It's gonna include right of way and it's gonna do that. I'm getting the finalizing the contract. As soon as that contract is finalized with addressing all DOT comments. And hopefully get a municipal agreement, hopefully by the same time, pushing DOT to get that done. And getting that started, the municipal agreement is required for us to get the money back to do the planning and engineering. It's mainly for funding. If I start now, we won't be able to get any money back right now. It'll be at county expense. As soon as that plan is done, engineering is done, then I can pursue with maybe next steps to see if there's any way of funding the building of that sidewalk. Yeah, it's gonna go through the Patriots Point because the bus stop has, I mean, I'm allowed to do a half mile around the bus stop for 5307. As long as if I would want to see that as a capital project to do transit access, well, I call it transit access. It's just another leverage of building the sidewalk.
So it's
Yes, the preliminary, the contract right now is the preliminary design engineering of the sidewalk itself, like field work, survey work, utility work, right of way work, designing the bridge and that kind of work. It's gonna be for that engineering of the sidewalk, sign and seal documents, bid documents, construction estimates, so that I can eventually take this set of documents and eventually go out and bid for that project for the construction of that sidewalk.
just out of curiosity.
300,000. I might have to amend something to get some more funds to pay for the right of way and some of the prefabrication stuff, because I think I originally budgeted 250.
That is good.
Well, I'm trying to connect to the existing sidewalk that's already there. The sidewalk that's there. I'm not trying to get into more of the Hillsborough part. I'm not trying to get into more because Hillsborough has their own connectivity plan for their sidewalk, their infrastructure. I'm trying to get to where the existing sidewalk is down to the school itself right now. I don't know what the cost of the actual sidewalk is going to be. I think the preliminary engineering and design is going to determine what the cost of the sidewalk is going to be. It's going to help with the right of way. It's going to help with the utility work and stuff like that. Maybe it'll reduce the cost for DOT if DOT was to build that sidewalk. Because like the sidewalk Amy was saying earlier is, NC 86, Sheets Walmart. There's a bridge over the railroad tracks on NC 86 and NC 10. That bridge, DOT is replacing that bridge, not the interchange, the south going south that over the railroad tracks. DOT is replacing that bridge, going to expand that bridge. It's going to put sidewalks on that bridge, and DOT is going to build sidewalk to Home Depot and to Aldi's. DOT is building that sidewalk. We're just going to maintain it. We have a maintenance agreement because it's going to be part of that bridge project. That was my first step in getting into the sidewalk local administration of doing sidewalk projects. This is a full signed, sealed engineering documents to eventually build the sidewalk for Orange Grove Road.
There was actually a quote for a pedestrian bridge to go over for it. And then that kept kind of coming up and it's like, oh, we have this quote, but nobody was gonna fund it, right? No one in the county was gonna pay it, the state was gonna pay it, nobody was gonna actually pay it. So.
This is a pedestrian bridge over the interchange.
Pedestrian bridge. Somebody did estimates on it, it was a pedestrian bridge that went over. But it just sat there. I don't remember what the cost was, probably minimal. If we look at comparison, it was probably like $200,000. But
Back in the night.
whatever it was. Well, I guess my question is, we did that then, couldn't get it because we didn't have a sidewalk, we didn't have funding, nobody was gonna pay for it. Now we have the ability to potentially have the sidewalk, which gives us a little bit of a leverage, but are we still gonna have to fight the battle of how do we actually get funding to cover the cost of the bridge?
That is why my solution, and I'll say this publicly. transit tax. 45307, transit funding can help pay for projects like this. 5307 is, just to give you an example, 5307, I can use it for capital. A capital project is an engineering project, physical facility, asset, sidewalk. Patriots Point is a bus stop, half a mile radius. It's a mile engineering from the existing sidewalk to New Grady Brown School is 1.07 miles. That's the contract. So that if I was to pursue a 5307 grant funding, I'm paying 20%. 80% is federal for engineering side to build the sidewalk. Not engineering design. Engineering design is county paying, getting federal funds to reimburse us. This is one mechanism of funding a bike ped project through transit funds. Transit tax is another. Transit tax, Carborough is an example. It has $1 million in transit access improvements. Transit access is sidewalk, bike lane, bus, whatever to get to a transit stop, transit access. Patriots Point is my transit access. I could use transit access, the sidewalk, through transit tax. So if the project comes out to be like $1.5 million to build that sidewalk, transit tax can fund it. Well, transit tax is 100% reimbursement. County has to pay the whole thing to get the money back. Those are just two different mechanisms. There's other mechanisms, other grant opportunities, other capital projects like 5310, 5339, other mechanisms. Even I don't know what the new infrastructure bill is going to be, and I don't know what the new Safe Ride to School program is going to be to help fund infrastructure improvements. I don't know what a safe ride to school coordinator, if we get one, can leverage other mechanisms through those kind of things. I just know some that I can use one to implement a project.
A shuttle bus from Patriots Point side of the bridge to the school side, run from 7:30 to 8:30 every morning, and from whatever the breakout times in the afternoon.
I've done some very, very preliminary research into this because of the public school driver issue has been is like the public transit driving issue. It's impossible to get drivers and keep drivers. School system, the Orange County Public School System, if you walk at the Board of Education, there's a sign out there by the building looking for drivers.
Like a permanent.
It's like a permanent sign looking for drivers. I mean, there's things that are going on in this country that I've seen in some places where the transportation department of the local jurisdiction and the school are working together to support each other.
Those kids from one side of the bridge to the other, that you could recruit some parent in that neighborhood.
Federal law prevents me from shuttle service like that. Federal law prevents me from doing charter shuttle services like that. If I was to create an umbrella, huh? I had to create a program like Mobility on Demand or Go Orange or Go something like that in partnership with the schools as a government service. I had to create a new program, an innovative program to do something like that as a government service. We do that. We do that with Department of Aging and Department of Social Services and other places, an MOU with those departments to do that. I'm trying to get the school board on board with this plan to create a new service to do that kind of program. I hope I can get more support as this plan is done, that maybe I can eventually create a program like that, not just for one school, but for other schools, or a pilot program to provide shuttle services during peak hours for that kind of work. But I'd had to have buy-in from the school itself, and right now I don't have it.
You'd say these are at-risk kids, they're not handicapped, but by virtue of the fact they're trying to go across that bridge, they're putting themselves at risk. And somewhere a definition along the line ought to apply to be able to provide the mobility service. I want something bigger than a golf cart to take them across. I want a full-size vehicle. But again, I think, and as populated as that neighborhood is, that you would be able to find parents, even if they had to share time slots for taking kids back and forth, that they, to find one or two people who would be willing to take a route like that for 2 hours a day or 2.5, 3 hours a day.
The at-risk is a really great idea. The at-risk population is a really great idea. One thing that's happening in the federal government level and now happening at the state level is environmental justice. The environmental justice used to call them communities of concern, elderly, minority, Hispanic, and zero-car households, poverty were considered communities of concern. Now they've changed that language to underserved and overburdened population. They've changed the language and they're trying to create measures, data measures, and also at the state level to say, how do we address underserved, overburdened population? Kids is one of the most vulnerable population. It ties to seniors that are just as equally vulnerable. Seniors have a mechanism. The elderly have a mechanism called 5310. Elderly and disabled have 53 funding that can do that kind of innovative programming to do that. I need to find one that is for children as well. There used to be a program called 8 to 80 that served people 8 years old to 80 years old with transportation and transit. So I think that was at a conference a couple of years ago. So I will look into that kind of research to see if there's something going on locally, regionally, or at the county level. One thing that would really help, and thank you for coming, and maybe you can help spread the word with this, because I've been told schools trying to help spread the word. I don't see it happening. January, when this project started, when this program started, one thing that we got approved and really appreciate the OUTBoard for helping make this happen is a youth delegate position on this board. It was approved by the Board of County Commissioners, just like the Parks and Recs one that was done. 13 to 17-year-olds, non-voting member would attend this meeting and represent the voice of the youth. I haven't gotten an applicant yet. So schools are saying the same thing. They're working on. I'm hoping I can come to your PTSO meeting and talk to them and talk somebody into it. Yeah.
School had a little.
Right, that's what I'm saying. The schools did not disseminate information to the parents at all. Like I would have noticed. And so it's not like, so, because that's the way to get the schools to listen is to get the parents to start bugging them about this kind of stuff. Because if the parents read this, they will have all sorts of input about it and they will contact the school board and.
One time I did that and I got slapped by the superintendent.
Yeah. What meeting was it? Another transportation meeting last year, and that's how we found out.
Yeah. Yeah, I was told don't do that anymore, and I was told don't talk directly with the superintendent. I was like, oops, okay.
So this is this like a public document?
It is a public document now. It is a public document. I would go back and check. Josh is saying it wasn't posted and there was something was going on with the thing. So I got to find out what happened and why the whole thing, if it's not posted, it needs to get posted and make sure that this whole thing is, the packet is correct. Cause I'm looking at the packet and I'm like, some of the pages are mixed up. So I got to find out what happened with that. And
The last couple of pages was like for each of the schools, what are the things that should be targeted for improvement? I think that would promote conversation among parents.
that was a very preliminary one. I've asked WSP to refine and go into detail for that. Yeah.
So you mentioned for you guys, the IB program at Cedar Ridge, those students have to do volunteer services. So this position.
It's a 1-year position. It's you attend, you selected for 1 year and then put on your resume, put on your application, you put on your government service. And
so the way that I got here is my daughter was at Cedar Ridge in the IB program and she wanted to do her IB project on Road to the Ridge to put in the sidewalk. And she was told by the IB coordinator and then by the principal, that would be an enormous waste of her time. And she was strongly discouraged from doing that. And
That's just sad. That's just,
she graduated 3 years ago.
Okay, good, great.
so if you have comments, feedback on this plan, document, spread the word, share it, and get people, I will attend the PTS. Thank you for inviting me to the PTS. So I will share when I go and talk to them about that meeting. So that is one PTA that I'll be attending for this project.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Very, very
Thanks, everybody.
much.
Appreciate it.
Is there anybody still on Teams, Dish?